Good. It's kind of like looking in the mirror. It's like looking in the mirror. Like,
I know. That's one of the things that I always got. I don't know if it's pride or makes me feel good when people are like, hey, are you and Topaz related? I'm like, yeah, we are. We are brothers from another mother, man.
Hi, I'm Topaz Adizes. And I'm the founder of the Emmy Award-winning series, The End. The End has been an incredible journey for the past 12 years. We've brought in over 1,250 pairs to have incredible conversations. Through this work, I've had the privilege of witnessing the bold and the beautiful and the heart-wrenching, the conversations that reveal us. And what I've learned through these incredible experiences is that life shapes us. Now I'm ready to share these learnings and reflections here with you to dive deeper. We're going to be speaking to people I find incredible. I'm going to be asking them questions that reveal their life's journey. Welcome back to Guts, Getting Under the Skin. I'm your host, Topaz Adizes, and today I'm joined by a man who is a master of the inner deep dive, Mitchell Goldman. He's a good friend of mine, and I'm really excited to have him here. Mitch's journey has taken him from the fast-paced world of New York City advertising and film production back to the pristine shores of the Adirondacks, where he now owns and directs Camp Chattogay, the same summer camp his family has attended since the 1940s. Today, we explore Mitch's profound awakening, how a repressed childhood trauma finally came to light at age 45, the Jedi move of owning your absolute truth, and the power of becoming a gentle beast in a world that often demands we be anything but. Get ready to go deep. This is Mitchell Goldman. That's your logo, right? This is like, so basically like you see yourself in this logo. This is the logo of you now.
Yeah, that's in my heart. That's who I am. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that.
I'm a gentle beast.
I'm going to use that as a map that we can talk about through this conversation. The kind of gentle beast logo you sent me, because it has a unicorn, it has a gorilla with a third eye. It's got the San Pedro plant, cactus and plant and flower on either side. So there's lots to talk about there. But when you said you were a gorilla, that really kind of landed with me. Like, how would you describe the traits of a gorilla that align with you?
Well, I've always had just fun playing around with people, and there's a physicality to a gorilla. I used to always like goof around and like, thump my chest and like throw stuff in the air and kind of, have a gorilla sort of like explosive tantrum where, gorilla is like this pristine, slow moving kind of like, the gorilla is the boss, man. Nobody messes with the boss. Silent, quiet until it's not.
Right.
And then it creates chaos and havoc. I think there's just a protective, gentle soul in there that is incredibly powerful and has access to intensive explosive power if needed. That's where I derive the power out of that animal totem for myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is a gentle beast. What
did you like resonate with the idea of being like a gorilla? When did that kind of identity settle in for you and resonate? Was it recent or was it always been there?
I think probably sometime after college. One of the things that you and I have in common is that we've always been seeking a deeper understanding with self, I think, through different modalities, whether it's Tony Robbins or from,
Landmark.
Landmark. Or, my work with psychedelics or whatever it is to try to find a deeper understanding with myself. And so early on in that work, I found the gorilla and he's always been with me. It's only in the last maybe 10 years that I've used him as a power, kind of like as a source of strength and peace for myself. When growing up, I used to always have nightmares with a gorilla.
Really?
It's fascinating. When I kind of found out that I had suffered a pretty significant trauma when I was very young that was blocked from me, the gorilla in that made sense, and then from that point on, became almost like a protector for me. Metaphorically speaking, obviously.
Yeah. Well, let's go into that. You want to go into that now?
Well, I mean, it started. I mean, first of all, did we see each other at that Unleash the Power Within, or did we talk before then? We just
I
bump
remember
into.
being together.
We drove there. We drove together. I will say that during that weekend, during the Dickens exercise, it's a guided meditation that Tony does, which for those that don't know, the Dickens exercise is an exercise where you go back and you're visited by the ghosts from the past, the present, and the future. Do you remember?
Yeah. So you go back to that moment, but then you go to the moment before the moment.
Right. So when I went back to the childhood for myself, there was nothing. It was black. It was very clearly void of memory, which, given somebody who's as powerful at creating an experience as Tony Robbins, for me, all of a sudden I was like, something's not right, man. Why do I have no recollection of anything under the age of like 6?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing. Black.
Mm-hmm.
It was a void, and in that exercise, it gave me this insight that I thought to myself, I need to really figure out why someone would block memories.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to just go down the
Mm-hmm.
rabbit hole on the internet of blocking memories. Came up with all kinds of theories on post-traumatic stress disorder. So then I self-diagnosed myself with a post-traumatic stress disorder, and then started to really figure out how different ways to heal that. I'd done years and years of therapy. Nothing had ever come up. We'd never explored that during all the landmark stuff. Nothing. I never discovered anything. And while this is all going on, I had a life that was just like, it was super like up and down. Whereas, when I was doing the Tony stuff or the landmark stuff and I was way in it, I would have massive success. And then on the flip side, I would like get super depressed, not leave my apartment for like a week. I was using all kinds of drugs and getting into all kinds of unhealthy stuff. So it was like super healthy, not so healthy, super healthy, not so healthy, but never had any inclination that anything like a post-traumatic stress disorder was a diagnosis that applied to me. And then I found through that process, people were talking about the dimethyltryptamine was a medicine that helped people with post-traumatic stress disorder. And
DMT.
Yeah, DMT. And the biggest or the most accessible form of that was through ayahuasca, which was this kind of strange, ancient, Amazonian medicine that people would use in Peru, and they'd go on these.
That was your impression then when you heard of it?
Well, I read about it, and that's the vast amount of information you could find about it was that it was this kind of like South American thing that you would do. You'd go on this, you'd find a shaman down there in the jungle, and you'd sit and take this medicine and then have this experience. And it was very exciting to me, but it was a little bit scary because I was like, well, if something goes down in the jungles of Peru, I don't, they're not going to take my medical insurance. So I was like, a little afraid, not going to do that, so I ended up, just kind of, it was top of mind, and I was doing a lot of, exploration of it. And I bumped into a friend of mine at a party, and he was a former stuntman, and like this, what I would call, he was really akin to like a Texan, samurai warrior. And he was like the best version of himself. He was the most calm and balanced I've ever seen him. And I was like, man, something's up with you. How are you doing? He's like, well, I found this thing. And I go, out of the blue, I'm like, was it ayahuasca? And he's like, yeah, it was. And so I was like, oh my God, listen, I'm exploring that myself. Well, tell me about it. And so we started that. And then he was actually training to work with the medicine. So he actually brought me to my first ceremony, which changed my life literally that day. And then subsequently, about a month later, I did a second ceremony. And these are, this is not like recreational use of a psychedelic. This is with you have to eat a certain way, for like a month. It's called La Dieta. And so you're eating a very specific way, you're preparing, you're doing journaling, you're getting really focused on the work at hand. And then during my second ceremony, these memories that I had repressed were opened up. And then all of a sudden, I realized that, there was a trusted family member of mine when I was 4 that had taken advantage of me. It had completely shaped my life. And all of these things that had happened to me throughout my life, all of a sudden, instantly, and I'm talking instantly, made sense. Like something that was in the unknown became known to me. And the human mind, I believe, once something that you don't know, it instantly handles it. And it was like always there's a lot of anxiety and stress around it. And so the second that I realized this, like it came back to me, the whole memory of this, it was one event. It came right back to me with tremendous specific detail. And the second that happened, all of a sudden, it wasn't like this big, like emotional, like, oh, I was abused. It was more like, oh, and my whole life fell into like a structure that made sense to me.
So how old were you at that point? How many years have you lived at that point?
This was 2016.
So you were how old?
I was like 45.
So 45. So ayahuasca opened up a memory of which prior was all black. And it opened up that memory. And as soon as you kind of resaw that memory or reminded that memory, it made all these other moments until you're 45. So like 40 years come into focus and like puzzle pieces fell into place.
Instantly. And all of a sudden, all of this energy, I had like all this energy.
Yeah.
And it was because I was inadvertently using that energy to repress this traumatic event for myself. So like the occurrence from the way it occurred to me was like all of a sudden magic. All of a sudden magically this thing that I didn't even know was running my life stopped running my life.
Wow.
And I had tremendous energy. And then I met my wife 2 weeks later.
Wow.
I mean, like it got something out of the way and just opened me up.
I'm sorry that happened to you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
We're jumping into it. Just out of curiosity, when you were in ayahuasca and you had that memory, was it like a visual thing or was it a knowing thing? Did you like re-see it? Did you have to relive it or was it just...
No, I mean, I'll tell you the whole thing. So when you do a traditional ceremony, this was based on a Peruvian ceremony out of a place called the Sacred Valley in Peru. It's like a 15-mile stretch, and a lot of the medicine comes from that region. The men will be on one side of the ceremonial space. The women are on the other side. So it's segregated men and women, and you basically have a mat. You have a bucket because ayahuasca tends to induce purging, and it's dark. And this was a night ceremony, so you're kind of laying there. There's a shaman who's there who's singing songs, and kind of that's the way you keep grounded because ayahuasca or dimethyltryptamine is an incredibly potent hallucinogen. So, there was times where I was like completely into some like vision. What I kept wrestling with during that whole experience was like it was almost like there was different layers of thinking. Like my thoughts, bear with me here and if it's unclear, but my thoughts were almost like layers of clothing. And like I'd take that thought off like, right. Like,
yeah. Like you're going deeper.
And I'd be like, no,
take off one thought and then you realize another thought.
Then, at one point I'm laying there and I was laying on my thing and I kept sitting up and laying down and there was this weird noise. I kept hitting my head on the wall because I kept sitting up and I was very like working through something. And the shaman comes over. She said, if you could find a way to be a little more gentle with yourself, that would probably be helpful. So I was like, okay. So I got my clothing back on. The next morning when it was over, I went to this woman who was across the room. She said, I heard you going through some over there and it sounded like you were battling with some kind of like a monster. And the second she said that, it completely clicked and the memory came back. I immediately called my mom and I was like, this happened. And she's like, that makes a lot of sense.
That was the first time she heard that had happened.
She had no idea. And actually, my sister, my mother, and my immediate family all know about it, but I haven't told the other part.
But that's interesting too, is that the memory, the thing that clicked wasn't necessarily in the ayahuasca ceremony. It was right after. It was someone else. It was the next morning, integration phase and such. And it was like, boop. And that was the stick that broke the camel's back. And all of a sudden, it all came back.
It came flooding out.
One thing I remember from you telling me that story was that it felt to me like your physiology relaxed, like your body relaxed, because it wasn't using all the energy to suppress a memory and keep a door closed. But now that it was out, it could like breathe. And now because of that relaxation, because I don't know if relax is the word, but it's kind of like letting out all that pent up energy.
Yeah,
letting that released.
I'm a big believer in like that we, almost like the universe, but we as beings, we're always constricting and releasing, constricting and expanding.
Like a heart. So, I mean, you're putting your hands together and out together now, very much like a heart.
Yeah. So it was a big expansion when that happened. And the constriction, you know, the protective mechanism of the human being is to constrict. Most live beings, they'll constrict when they're in danger.
Fear.
Yeah. But you know, it's interesting you mentioned that, because since the very first time I worked with that medicine, I didn't have any big insights, but the very next morning, I was a cigarette smoker before then. The next morning, I had zero interest, like literally didn't even I went cold turkey, but it wasn't even hard. It was like, I don't want that.
You mean the first time you did ayahuasca, the next morning you gave up cigarettes?
I gave up cigarettes and started yoga that afternoon.
Wow. And then
started meditating all in one day. Like it all came to me.
And then the second time you did it, you had this understanding, this realization.
Yep. But for those, adults that I see struggling, I tell them about it. And some of them are kind of like, I think they're a little bit adventurous with they want to like do it just as an experience. Like, hey, yeah, let me do it just to
doing ayahuasca as an experience, you're saying?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you something. This was like one of the last stops on the train, to check that out. Like I was starting to get pretty desperate, because the ups and downs I was telling you about, were pretty extreme. There was a moment you were doing something. It was either a blog, you were doing something that's really, it struck something in me, and I was like, I can do that. And I did that. And it was like right around that time I had this night where I went out and I was like all kinds of messed up and intoxicated. And I got home and I looked in the mirror, and my stepfather was very, very sick at the time.
Yeah.
And, I just was like, everything was kind of imploding. And I looked in the mirror and I had this conversation with myself, and I was like, this is it, dude. We're either going to blow our brains out, or we're going to solve this, because nobody's coming. Like nobody's going to come and save you. And so I was like, okay, all right. What
year was this? What year is this when you looked in the mirror? What year was that?
This was like 2013. I was done. I was at the end of my rope. I was broke. My apartment was upside down. I owned an apartment, but it was upside down. I was literally living off my credit cards. My film career was in the shitter. I mean, I was like, this relationship I was in had ended. I remember involved in this horrible lawsuit. I just was like, you know what? I've had the ride. I've had enough. I'm done with the ride. It's time to get off the ride. And I was seriously considering killing myself. Wow. And I was looking in the mirror. I was really messed up that night, and, intoxicated. And I was looking in the mirror, and I was having a conversation with myself about how we're going to do this. And I was like, dude, you can't do that to your mother. You cannot do that to your mother. I put my foot down for myself.
Wow.
And I was like, you can't do it. So then I was like, well, what do I do? And it was this, I was at the bottom. I was like a sense of bewilderment that it was completely overwhelming.
Now, just one note. It's worth noting that this was 3 or 4 years before you had the experience with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So at this point, you were talking in the mirror to yourself, Were you in Rochester in your mom's home?
No, I was in my apartment in the West Village.
In the West Village. So you're having that conversation with yourself.
Yeah,
and you still, at this point, you still didn't know what this hidden.
I still didn't know what it was, but but the thing that was important about that moment in my life, and what I think, one of the reasons was before we were doing this, why I was like, why am I so excited to talk to Topaz, other than just getting to hang with you? I was like, if I can put my message out there so that anybody can hear it and say, oh my God, I relate to that. I get that.
Yeah.
That's really, that's the blessing here, because
Absolutely.
I really had a moment where I was like, what are we going to do? Nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
Wow.
You, Mitch, you guy, have to save yourself. And I didn't know how to do that, but I finally took responsibility. And that's when, I ended up selling my apartment, like in a fire sale. I sold all my stuff. I sold everything I owned. I got my entire life down into like 2 big duffel bags.
How old were you when you're 2013? You'd be.
I was like 42. Yeah.
That's a big conversation.
Yeah. Whatever it is that you're getting worked up about out there, it really, for me, living my life started when I went way deep inside for me and started living my life for myself on my terms, not the things that I thought were my terms based on all the historical, conversations that my parents and other people had put in my head, but living it for me. When I was filling out your questionnaire, I wanted to quote this, and maybe I did, I don't know, this Michael Jackson song about the man in the mirror.
Yeah, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Make a change. That's it right there. And that applies to everything out here. If I heal it within myself, I believe deeply that it'll heal out here. It all started with that look in the mirror where I was like, dude, choose. You're going to live this life, or you're going to end it. Well, at the end of the day, that's really the question I think that every person needs to sort out for themselves overtly.
Because clearly I want to be helped. I want to get out, but like, oh, wait, no one's coming. I have to do this myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nature is a great teacher of how to live life and embrace life fully. So like an acorn, nobody sent the acorn to Tony Robbins seminars. The acorn has in it all of the keys that it can unlock organically to become this great oak tree. It doesn't think about it. It doesn't take courses or get coaching to do it. It just does it. And just like a flower blooms, it just that's what it does. That's part of its life cycle. So for me, really choosing life and being a curious observer to it and being a witness to that organic thing has been really empowering and useful in living my life, especially as a parent.
Yeah, the powerful thing I hear in the allegory or metaphor of the acorn is that it has everything in it to be its greatest self.
Yes.
Right. But I don't equate like going to Tony Robbins or any type of work as like a sign that like it can't figure it out on its own or that it's not working. More so, I feel like it's a just active nutrition. It's like, okay, you know what? Well, I'm just going to go and I'm going to help cultivate the land right now so that I can support the natural growth that happens. I'm going to put a little bit more of mulch there so that it has stronger nutrients, or I'm going to put a little bit more water and sunlight. Like that's for me what like I like to till the land at least every 2 years, if not more often, where I have to do something that's quite difficult, emotionally and spiritually, reflexively challenging, so that I can like shatter the mirror of my self-identity. Like I need to do that, because if I don't, then in my experience, the blind spots in terms of my relationship with others and how I'm behaving in that become so great that it creates some damage or it requires something of great energy to come break it so that I have to face it. And if instead I like do the exercise and I break it myself, I can do it in a more responsible manner. Does that make sense? It's like
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
And
if I don't stretch for 2-3 months and then go for a sprint, I'm going to pull a hamstring. But if I just stretch a little bit every day and then sprint after, 3 months in, I'll be okay because I've been stretching every day. I've been keeping it loose.
Yeah. I think that's a really important distinction. And I think what was missing in this conversation was that all of these things I was doing to Tony Robbins, the landmark, I was going from one to the next on a mission to fix what was wrong. And what I hear you saying is, and what I agree with is, there's nothing wrong. We're just tilling the land. We're just making the experience more fruitful by doing that stuff. But for me, I was doing it to fix something, to get it was kind of part of the same conversation. Like I wasn't actively a participant in my own life. I was just kind of like being blown around by the wind and didn't realize that I had a say in it.
And so is there a defining turning point where you became an active part in your life? Was it after the ayahuasca, the second time of ayahuasca in the morning when that person said and it shifted? Was it after that evening in the West Village and when you were 42?
It was after the look in the mirror where
that's
I was
when the moment, like, I need to take responsibility. No one else is coming.
Yeah. Like it changed. The context of my life changed. Whereas before then it was almost like I was like, God, stuff keeps happening to me. Why does this keep happening to me? And, even today, like when stuff happens, it's hardwired. It's like the software that I inherited from my parents always wants to go to like, why is this happening to me? And that's not a helpful mindset for me.
Right. Well, I mean, just like for me, I'm always focused on question like, why is this happening to me? Then if you're going to set your mind off to find all these reasons to justify why it's happening to you, maybe that's not the best question to ask. Yeah. Maybe the question is asked like, what is the challenge? What is this challenge teaching me? What's the best way to overcome this challenge because it'll make me a fuller person? I don't know. Like changing the question
what I've noticed recently and this Alan Watts thing I was listening to yesterday really, I'm dealing with some stuff with my company right now that is challenging and but it's nothing scary, nothing horrible, but I do notice myself going into this it's like everything's beautiful outside. It was a beautiful day. It's like 70 degrees. I'm walking around. I get this phone call. Something goes off, and next thing you know, it's doom and gloom everywhere, and nothing has changed. Not a thing except for what's going on in my head.
Right.
And so what I do now is I don't even ask why. I say, oh hey, shh, look what's going on. Notice where you're going. Just notice. And that right there, that's big medicine. And that started with the look in the mirror where it wasn't as much about why me. It was more about like, look, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just, after I gather enough information about what I'm doing, then I actually have power to make a change in my own life to, shift that if I really want to.
What lands for me is owning the agency. Like with the fact that nobody's coming, the cavalry ain't coming. I am the cavalry. You're owning the agency. And I have no doubt I've had those moments. I can't think of one now, but I know for a fact I've been in front of that mirror.
Years ago, when there was this guy, this mentor of mine that was like, people are motivated in one of two ways. They either see the light or they feel the heat. He goes, which one are you? And meaning that you can be inspired to strive for excellence and be that, or you can move because where you are is painful. And I'm a feel the heat kind of guy.
I see. So wait. So just to play that back, you're saying there's two kinds of people: ones that see the light and ones that feel the heat. So see the light is like they see it and they yearn for it, they strive for it, they reach for the light, they drawn to it. Yeah. And the other ones are like hanging out until they feel the burning, and then they go, I got to get out of here.
Yeah,
I got to move.
Yeah, I got to move or I'm going to get burned.
So tell me,
and that has been constant motivator in my life is when the pain gets great enough, I make changes.
There's always opportunities to like lean into that, to feel that heat or lean towards the heat so that you got to change instead of waiting for it to get so hot that forces you to move.
Yeah, I've been really vibing lately on this listening without an agenda. Because if I can listen without an agenda to somebody, then it gives me a chance to respond the way that I choose to respond, as opposed to just knee-jerk reacting, which is what I did and what I've done most of my life, is reacting.
How would you describe this journey, the story of Mitch Goldman, to someone who doesn't know you? How old are you now? 52, 51?
56.
56. Holy shit. You look good, dude. You look really good.
I take care of myself, man. Thank my mother for that. My mother's got great genes.
How would you describe the story of Mitch Goldman till now?
Yeah, my story is one of awakening. The human experience for me is just deeper and deeper levels of waking up to consciousness, really. I have always been incredibly sensitive. I sense things that other people don't sense just because my antenna have little antenna. I'm just my feelings have feelings. That was the joke we used to always say when I was little. And so life from a very early age was always very overwhelming to me. Smells were overwhelming. Sounds were overwhelming. I mean, still to this day, I'll come home and the apartment and, Ashley will have been burning a candle. And I'll be like, oh, what is that? I can't deal with it. It's very, very strong senses on this meat suit here. And so I think the story of my life has been one where I'm just continuously learning and awakening to how that's a gift and becoming more and more aware of that gift. And then the more I awaken to it, the less I become concerned about creating an identity called Mitch Goldman. If that makes any sense.
Totally.
The more I'm awake, the less I have to do. And the more I can just be awake. And the greatest teachers of that for me are my children. They just want to hang. They just want to be. They just want to play. And I find myself constantly doing things that keep me from just being with them. And I'm always surrendering. It's a constant surrender. So it's like an awakening and also a constant surrendering.
So that's like the deeper thread of the internal story, but the external story would be
right. I went to Bucknell, and then that was tumultuous. And then I got a degree from there, but did nothing with it. And then started working at this children's camp that I went to when I was a kid. My mom went there when she was a kid. I did that right out of college for a bunch of years, but I was deeply driven to be involved in entertainment. I wanted to be an actor, really. And I quit the camp gig. I went to Atlantic Theater Company, did a bunch of classes there, started going on auditions, started acting. So I go in this Volvo ad and I'm gonna crush it. I knew the guy. I walk in this audition and the room is filled with guys like me. And I didn't get the gig. And I was like, can't do this. I'm not cut out for it. So then I decided, I'll be a director. And that wasn't it. I was like, maybe I'll be a producer. It was like, I kept shifting around.
Yeah.
And then 15 years later, the owner of the camp was like, look, man, I'm too old for this. I think you're the guy. Why don't you come work with me for a few years and then figure out how to buy me out? And that's what happened. And but I like kicked and screamed the whole way. I was not into it. I didn't want to do it.
How many years were you a camp counselor there?
I worked there for 7 years, year round. It's from 1993 to, it's 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. Yeah. 6 years.
Year round.
Like what I did. Lived in New York City and recruited kids and recruited staff.
Wow. And then in 2000, 18, when did you start?
When I decided I was not going to be the camp guy anymore in like 98, I was living in New York City and I got a temp job. I went to a temp agency and took their like assessment, where you screw in screws and you do all these different things. And they're like, look, you scored very high in the computer area and unbeknownst to me, when I was working at the camp, because I was the youngest guy there, we had this software called PC Anywhere. You remember that ever?
No.
So this is back with modems, dial-in modems, and everything was DOS based. So I became, through hours and hours and hours on the phone with tech support, I became like this computer guy. I didn't realize it. So I got this temp job at this huge global ad agency in the IT department during a regime change, went out and really hit it off with the CEO. And then he hired me, and I was like this advertising executive for 3 or 4 years, making a ton of money. And I was like, the money was enticing, but it wasn't filling the well, so to speak, spiritually, or, from a personal fulfillment standpoint. So I ended up going to film school. I did like an intensive program at the New York Film Academy for a year, and ended up starting a business out of that, because the ad agency threw me all these little jobs. I ended up doing that for 15 years. That turned into movies. And then, that ended up being great until about 2010. And then I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. It was not for me.
Until you took over the camp.
So then I just was just trying to I was teaching film finance. I was I got involved in network marketing. I mean, I was doing whatever I could do to make money, because I was I had this awesome apartment, but I was totally cash poor. Every penny I made went to paying my mortgage.
Yeah.
But also single, and the whole single thing was just killing me. When I was in the film business and I was jet setting around the world and meeting actresses everywhere, it was great. But then when I wanted to get serious and settle down and maybe have a family, I had nothing. I was empty.
Yeah.
During this whole period, I was the head of the alumni for this camp, just by, because I started a Facebook group in 2006. And
so you're always connected.
Yeah, always connected. And I always go, it's in a very beautiful part of New York State. I mean, it's in the Adirondack Mountains.
What's it called? What's the camp called?
Called Camp Chateauguay.
Chateauguay. Yeah, it's got a great name. Chateauguay. I don't even know how to spell that.
But it's also in this pristine mountain lake. It's very remote, and it's,
how do you spell it?
Like Chateau, Chateau, Gay, Chateauguay.
Okay.
And so I would go up there and visit, and we were at lunch one day, and a movie that I was producing fell apart. I got the call when I was at lunch with him. I was like, "Hey, you got a job for me this summer? I'm available." He goes, "Yeah, I do actually." I was like, "What?" And that was 2013, right after that whole look in the mirror moment. Bashar, if you were to ask, however he does it, he's just got these really meaningful to me kind of ways of approaching life. And one of them is find your highest form of excitement and then do whatever that is with an open heart, full on, till you can't do it anymore, but do it. You have to do it with no expectation on outcome. And I love that. I think as far as living life, if you can follow your excitement, that's great.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, so anyway, that led me back to camp. The guy was like, "Look, why don't you work for me for a few years, and you can figure out how to buy me out." And that's what I did. And actually, that's when it got really interesting. Once I figured out how to acquire the camp, it took me about a couple of years to shake off, the vision that my predecessor had, and to really build my own vision for this place, which is, it's a place where kids and staff get to practice being the best version of themselves. And that's exciting. That's exciting to me.
So what is the gift that has developed in you think?
I think there's a lot of gifts, but
right.
But the one that I've been really excited about lately is the one of being the curious observer of my own life. And when I say that, that means even when we're talking, being a curious observer, when you say something, really being curious about it, about, I wonder what he meant by that, or what else, where's he going with this? Or what does that mean to him, as opposed to coming at things with an agenda. Because so often I noticed in my own life that people would talk to me and I would be listening to them with an agenda in the background to say what I wanted to say when I needed to say it, instead of just listening and being curious and being filled with a sense of wonder and like, ooh, interesting. And that's a really powerful gift, I think, especially with kids.
But is that a gift or a skill set? I feel like it's a skill set.
Well, I
Or
mean,
like-
maybe the gift is the awareness. Oh, yeah, that's an interesting question, Topaz, because I've been working on this for years, wanting to be more curious for my own process. And it just feels like one day, all of a sudden, magically, it showed up. Did I develop that?
You mean
Probably.
like, wait. What showed up? Curiosity or the ability to kind of see yourselves at a distance?
The ability to listen to somebody with a curiosity that is really connected to wanting to connect with them and wanting to understand them, like we're really wanting to understand them
Without bringing like a baggage of your own.
Without bringing my
focusing
identity,
on your own response. Yeah.
throwing my identity in there and making it about me and trying to get something from them. The gift of being freed from that agenda to get something when I'm talking to somebody.
Totally.
I mean, it's everywhere in my life, that freedom from that. Yeah. And it really does feel like a gift. Because I was
It's interesting. Like I feel like when you're using the gift there, that term, it's like less so a gift of like a superpower and more so like a gift that was given to you that you've received.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels.
Yeah. Maybe what happened was a deeper trust and faith that, hey, I'm held and I don't need to control everything.
That right there, baby. Oh, this really resonates deeply with me, is really what you just said. Trusting that it's all unfolding as it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's all unfolding for the maximum benefit of everybody and everything. Yeah, even saying that, it gives me butterflies.
Butterflies because you feel like it's true, but it's scary?
It gets scary.
Do you feel happier and more fulfilled doing that work and like, living in that life? How do you feel?
I would say there is a restlessness that I have always had and I will probably always have. But I manage it much better now than I ever have. Once I got aligned with who I am as a human and what I need to take care of this body, and I became committed to caring for it, I dropped like 30 pounds. I don't smoke, and I don't eat like an asshole anymore. I do yoga every day, even when I don't want to. I exercise every day, even when I don't want to, because that's part of being responsible for this restlessness that's in me constantly that I've always had. So when you're like, are you happy? If I choose that I want to be happy, I'm the happiest I've ever been in the history of my life. But am I always happy? No.
Right.
I'm always driven. That's for sure.
Tell me, if we went back to when you were 23 and you were going to those auditions, those first dozen before the Volvo one,
yeah,
you were like hungry for whatever it was that you thought acting would fulfill for you.
Yeah.
And you talked to that Mitch Goldman and you told him, okay, man, this is what your life's going to be in, 30 years, 33 years. It's going to be this at 56. This is what you'll be doing. How do you think that Mitch would react to what you tell him?
He'd probably be super disappointed. To be fair.
He would be disappointed.
He wouldn't understand. Because he was operating out of a gaping wound that was just, he was in a defensive, wounded posture, and he couldn't get it. Because whether I, run this camp until I die, or whether I do something different tomorrow, what I do has no bearing on who I am as a human. And I really believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And who I be is I be a father first,
mm-hmm.
and then I be a partner. But before any of that, I be someone who loves myself like my life depends on it, because it does.
That's beautiful.
I am committed to being real with myself, with what's truly there.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I still work with psychedelics a few times a year, because I believe that with that medicine, it is a bullshit like it gets rid of the bullshit, man.
Right.
You're not going to hide when you're on an intense psychedelic medicine. You're not going to be able to hide from those things that you've built mental constructions to stop yourself from dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the greatest change then between that 23-year-old Mitch and the Mitch now?
The biggest difference is that now I understand that a little bit better. Not a ton, but a little bit better. And I realized that nothing out here is going to fill that void. And that goes back to the acorn. All of that need since I was like a teenager, I just wanted to be famous. I wanted to be famous so bad.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck does that mean? At 56, I don't really need the approval of the world. What I do really, really need is to approve of myself. Deep down, like as deep as I can go.
Yeah.
There has to be love there for myself first, foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Filling the void with external stuff, is that going to get us anything? Ever? Look, it's always going to be there. That drive to want approval, to want to make a difference, to be important to other people. But I definitely make a difference in the lives of kids and adults, and they're constantly being like, thank you. Oh my God, you did. Thank you so much what you did. And I go, oh yeah, you're so welcome. And then there's like a voice that comes in and goes like, imposter.
Right. But I don't think
you
that
don't
voice
know
is
who you really are. I think, if I was to go back to that 23-year-old to reframe that conversation, I don't think I'd be like, hey, dude, this is what I'm doing now. What do you think? I'd be like, hey, man, I'm here to tell you at 56, I'm not going to tell you anything about what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, though, to just trust yourself and to love yourself, because where I am now is awesome. I might show him a picture of like my family. Be like, look, this is yours. Because I adore my wife and kids like beyond.
Yeah.
At 56, I can say without any shadow of a doubt, I might not have the same physical abilities, but I'm definitely in the best shape I've ever been in my life, for sure.
Nice.
I eat the healthiest I've ever eaten. I take care of myself the best I've ever taken care of myself. So, I wouldn't trade any of that to be where I am now. I think that what people do find in me is that I'm always going to be even. I'm always going to listen. I'm always going to show up. I'm going to be on time. I'm going to honor my word. I'm going to go to the greatest length possible to honor what I said that I'm going to do. And I think that people rely on me for that. They know that that's what I'll do. My trust in that is that if I'm that guy around and all of the other parents know that, they're not going to really care about the social, graces that I or my wife throw on them when we meet them at the birthday party.
Right.
They're going to know over time, like the long game is they're going to be like, oh, that guy's reliable. He honors his word.
Totally. What keeps you up at night nowadays? What's the thorn in your foot? What's the thing
Sadly, it's usually around money, finances. I haven't cracked that nut yet. I'm getting there. We're getting close. It's better now than it's ever been. But yeah, sometimes there's, and it goes into the context of I'm playing a much, much bigger game than I was when I was, in my 20s. Like, I got it. Like I'm dealing in seven figures as opposed to like, 3 figures.
Yeah.
And that's a big boy game.
Mm-hmm.
And
but it's still the same game, isn't it? Isn't it still the same game, just bigger numbers?
Yes, it is. And the two that really keep me up at night would be finance and then maybe, any medical potential complications. Like if my kids are sick or if I'm sick or she's sick, like, my daughter's puking last night, and as she's getting sick, I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if this is something horribly bad and, horrendous? Like that's just where my mind goes sometimes.
Well, so what do you think all your experiences in your life has shaped you into?
Definitely a gentler soul. I am really starting to embrace the role of wise village elder.
Well, when you say that, I think I kind of feel like you did that with those two kids I met that appreciated you so much as their camp counselor. Like that is a similar role. It's like the older mentor, like wise guy, wise elder.
But like the reason why I sent you that patch, gentle beast, man, that sums it up. Gentle is my war cry these days.
Mm-hmm.
And not only with my kids, but mostly with myself, to be gentle. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to what we were talking about the other day about meditation and, my meditative practice, where I actually can now I have a more intimate understanding of how the mechanism of my mind works. And so within that, my mind can be super harsh.
Yeah.
And that's just what it does to survive. And so this shaping of this gentle being has been really potent and powerful. But mostly it starts with gentle with self first.
So that's what life is shaping in you too, to learn how to be gentle with yourself.
Yes. And by extension, everybody. And you know what? If we were all a little more gentle with each other, the world would be a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think life has an intelligence that's designing you for something? Or do you think it's designing you for a way of being? Or what's your...
I'm just starting to understand a deeper sense of purpose that connects us all, that I think is related to God, spirituality, the divine, things that, I think a lot of people, they'll talk about it in a very, general sense, like an appropriate sense, but I think it's way more personal. And I don't think it can be put in a box, but I think those terms like God, divine, spiritual, all encapsulate that. And I think gentle is part of that for me.
I feel like you had a moment when you were 46, remembering a moment from when you were 4, that then put everything ahead of you back into focus. So that you went back to 4 years old, something happened, a piece of the puzzle fell into place, which then put all the other pieces of the puzzle that were not in place, boom, they found their spot and they clicked in. And that puzzle from your first 46 years of life became clear. I also think there's a moment that happens in the future, right? That happens that makes all the previous pieces also fall into place. Like, I thought the puzzle was a picture of a dinosaur, and now these other things fell. It's actually a house, or it's a submarine, or whatever. Or
that dinosaur part is just the snapshot in the bigger picture.
Yeah,
I would love it. I welcome it, and I think that my daily life is really part of a preparation for those moments. One of the things I always talk about at camp with the kids is, all we got are these moments. It's a moment. Camp is just really a string of moments that are all put together. And a lot of them are like, belly laughing, super potent, powerful, fun moments. But it's just a moment.
What is it that gives you the greatest joy, and how are you offering more of it?
What fills my well is when somebody has a problem that they bring to me and I'm able to solve it in such a way that it leaves them emboldened and empowered. And then they go off and now they're doing it on their own. At camp over the summer for 60 days in a row, that's just happening, 2, 3, 4 dozen times a day. The experience is one of losing myself in the sense that I become like a hollow bone. I'm just like there's no identity. It's
Mm-hmm.
just service. It's just complete and utter service,
Mm-hmm.
which just feels fantastic and it's fun. One of the things that I speak to frequently, and that I hope if anybody hears this, they will know, we hide these struggles from each other. We hide these struggles from ourselves.
Yeah.
So, looking in the mirror at this pivotal moment in my life was the first time that I even let myself see how dire a strait I was in. And then, then I would go out and pretend that everything was fine. We as human beings walk around in a pretense constantly, pretending one thing while who we truly are is something completely different. And so I'm really more consciously creating a version of myself that is in my best effort, truly who I am whenever possible.
All right. So last thing we do is I just take the self deck right here that I have.
Yep.
I'm just going to pull the last question. Comes from the self deck. It's a question for you to ask yourself. You don't have to answer it, but I'd like you to just read it. Ready? Tell me when to stop.
Stop. All right, hang on. Okay, there we go. Who or what is informing this thought?
Oh my God. That's your gift, dude. I can't believe that's the question about your gift. That's what when you say you like step back and you're witnessing your thoughts, like that's the question that you're asking when you're in that state.
Yeah.
No? Or who or what, or like something along those lines.
Yeah. It is. Which it reminds me of that saying, like, which monster are you going to feed? My buddy Teddy, who's an amazing human being, you should talk to him at some point. Okay. He's actually a professional AD, but he's also a musician. He's also just an incredible human. He talks about the mind is like it's like a shark, like a great white ravenous shark, that the mind just needs something to bite onto. And then once it gets it, just chomps at it and chomps at it, chomps at it. And then it creates chum in the water. And then all the other parts of the mind, like a feeding frenzy of sharks, just goes on it until whatever it is either gone or exhausts whatever is there. And so, yeah, which shark am I going to feed is the question, which is the question that we just picked, really.
Well, man, thank you so much for joining, man. I appreciate you.
Dude, I love you so ferociously, man.
I want to thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope it had some utility. I hope it offered a reflection of what maybe life is shaping you for, and maybe it offered a missing piece to the puzzle of your life. It was a pleasure for me, and I appreciate your time and attention. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can stay abreast of all the new episodes we have coming out. And until next time, thank you so much. Guts is a Skin Deep media production. The show is produced and edited by Gonzalo Torres Ocampo, with editorial support from Anthony Cabral, and executive produced by me, Topaz Adizes. Special thanks to all the guests who showed guts, without whom there will be no getting under the skin. Interested in joining our community and following this journey? Visit guts.podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and theskindeep.com for in-depth conversation card games that create the space for connection, intimacy, and deeper conversation.